Hi, everyone. Really excited to bring in you another episode of the Conversion Podcast. Really, really cool topic. I think a couple reasons. One, the guest, Colin, who's the vice president of Kameleoon in North America. So I'm very excited for that one. And then the other thing is just the topic for today, which is on prompt-based experimentation, or as Kameleoon calls it, PBX. I think interesting in terms of like sort of the inflection point we're seeing on like where is experimentation going, what's possible, all sorts of things of both like efficiency improvements, but what also does this unlock? Colin, I'll kind of let you maybe do a quick introduction of yourself just to let everyone know who you are.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for having me on the show, Matt. Yeah, I lead growth for Kameleoon here in North America. So if that means changing the water cooler or jumping on cool podcasts like this to talk about what's going on in the space of experimentation, count me in.
Nice. Okay. And just in case people don't know, and I actually always get the question about like, how do you actually pronounce it? Like, what is Kameleoon? Maybe tell me if I am pronouncing that correctly. And then what do you guys do? Like, just real quick for someone who's listening and maybe isn't familiar.
You got it perfectly. And listen, call us Chameleon, call us Kameleoon, those two O's. I always want to get it phonetically written on the shirt, but simply put, Chameleon works. And we keep it simple here. We just do two things. We make sure that we help all teams be able to build an experiment any way they want, and then we help them release their features however helpful. So that means we're a leader in what's called all team experimentation, or a leader in what someone wants to experiment and feature manage in one platform.
Nice. Okay. And then let's just dive right into it because I think we can really get quite deep and granular today. Like, what is prompt-based experimentation or PBX? Like, how would you describe that?
Well, the easiest way to describe it is kind of take one step backwards. I mean, for some of the listeners, they may know about what is happening in terms of like vibe coding. So there's a popular website or a SaaS product called Lovable, and Lovable is now joined by, 1,000 other vibe coding tools. And essentially, what's possible today is that you can prompt the AI to build net new web product or net new product. When I say product, I mean a website, an app, you name it. We're validating that what you have created is actually having a benefit on your target customer is more important than ever. So PBX, or prompt-based experimentation, is simply the coupling of vibe coding, where you can build just by chatting with AI, with experimentation. Now, Chameleon took it a step further. Instead of saying, I want to build something new, which isn't necessarily how a lot of us work, instead, what we've done is say, listen, you have a website or web product that you're responsible for. You want to optimize or enhance that product. You should be able to build your variants, your tests, your experiments, your prototypes, whatever verbiage you have, you should be able to build that directly on your site, and then you should be able to launch what you've built into a test immediately. And that's simply prompt-based experimentation. Chat with AI to build your test.
I had this question I was going to ask later. How would you describe how it's different then? Like you're talking about Lovable, Cursor, etc. Like what is, if you just were to kind of like really make it clear, like what's different about using PBX versus other like AI coding tools? Yeah.
Fantastic. It's the right question to ask. It is a completely blank space way, a net new way of creating an experiment. You will just simply interact with an LLM, and then you build whatever it is that you have as your idea for that variant. So it's just in terms of like tactics, a net new way of creating a test. But it's also a way of keeping what we call like human in the loop here. So some AI out there, what the promise is, and a lot of this still hasn't been released yet, is this idea that AI is going to understand your audience, understand friction in your funnel, and then it's going to surface different variant ideas for you to consider. That's what we call like the AI prompting you. Right now, prompt-based experimentation is you prompting the AI. And I think that's another huge strategic difference between say, Chameleon's AI and what's supposedly promised and coming out.
When I think about like your traditional experimentation process or what you're going through in terms of like, I want to produce an experiment, there's everything from like, I'm doing some initial analysis, some research, I'm identifying opportunities. I shape that into like what a potential strategy is in the form of like typically a hypothesis, right, that I want to test. I then go through actually like producing what that test is, like design, development, launching it, measuring it, and then once we start collecting data, then actually analyzing that and trying to use it to make a decision. Just maybe where does PBX fit in that? Like just to give us like the scope of it in terms of like how you view it.
Yeah, again, great question. So here at Chameleon, we basically believe there's like four phases to a test. We call it the ideation, build, then configure, and then finally like the analysis or activation part of the test. And you know, is every single part equally easy or equally different? No. The number one complaint or friction point is the difficulty. And Matt, this goes not just for like SMBs or medium-sized companies. You talk to the largest companies in the world, and they'll say the same thing the smallest companies do, which is build portion is the hardest part of the experimentation process. It doesn't mean that ideation, configuration, analysis is easy. We'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, PBX is designed to get rid of that friction point of build. So it basically can reduce the amount of time that teams are spending on a variant from weeks, days, down to minutes. And I always like to say, it's taking you from 0 to 1 in minutes versus weeks. In some instances, we see it taking you from like 0 to 90%, and then you bring in your devs, your engineers for that last 10%. So easy to correct versus create. And that's where PBX is today. But you ask a really good question, and I'll stretch it further. What it really is bringing this LLM model, this prompt based UI, to the build stage, but in a matter of weeks, you're going to see the LLM model be applied to not only ideation, where you can say, "Hey, give me some ideas to optimize this page." All right, that's going to be easier and easier, and more importantly, more impactful over time as these data sources and the AI models get better at reading those data sources, improve. But then it's going to jump over, like I said, we're already talking about the build stage. And it's going to jump over the build stage, and then you'll be able to say, instead of dealing with a targeting window, an allocation window, setting a goals window, you'll be prompting the AI to say, okay, this looks good. I want you to target all people in California on their mobile devices and make sure that this goal, and this goal is set. Does that sound good? And then it will say, well, what about that goal? And you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that one too. So this whole conversational way of creating a test is just going to take place in a matter of months, not years. That's how fast the space is moving.
Yeah, no, I love it. I can't help but like kind of have a little bit of a cheeky smile because I think this is very cool. Even with a little bit of the inside kind of track I get to see across some of the spaces or different brands. I think there's some really cool stuff coming and transformational that you could view in some part as scary, but then on the other side, I think it's just if you any sort of optimist can't just look and go, wow, what a cool like sphere we're maybe about to enter. And I love this analogy someone was saying of like being like innings in baseball, and it was like you kind of feel like the last year was like the first inning, and I kind of do feel you kind of hit the corner of we're just entering the second inning, which is like, hey, we're just moving to the next part, but there's also like so much of this that's gonna like play out as well. So very cool. The thing that I was really excited about this too was I love that I've heard you talk about it before, really like following this like show rather than tell and talk about it principle. So I thought, okay, let's make this kind of the cornerstone of this and put you on the spot. But let's actually go into like a demo of this. So I think this is very cool. Obviously, if you're just like able to actually watch the video, probably part that can look in because Colin will start actually sharing a screen. And what you kind of gave me was like, let's pick a brand and then maybe let's actually like try to apply like PBX to it. I thought about this a little bit, and the one that I picked was Lego. We're literally filming this. It's November 27th, 2025. Just about to hit Black Friday, right? Lego's a fascinating thing that, like, we're literally in this, at least you read these studies. I think they've smoothed it out a little bit, but so much of their revenue is about to hit in, like, this, like, holiday period. So I was like, okay, this would be a cool one to jump in. So with that, maybe if you want to share your screen and you kind of asked me to maybe identify some things that stood out. And with this, I tried to do this in managing the level of like the podcast, but starting with something like really simple up to, hey, what are some more like maybe interesting or kind of pulling it further and further. And so I would say just the ideas I came up with, I would say are easy and medium, not even getting to hard. But at least will get us started moving in the direction of like what's possible.
One thing for everyone listening is, I hope you watch the demo. I'm happy to share with you how it works on the Lego site, Matt. That's a good example. But I want everyone listening that we made PBX free for anyone to try. So I really encourage you to like download our free Chrome extension, create a free account, and you can start prompting any website the same way that I'm about to show you, Matt. We even went so far create what we call the Prompt-a-thon. It's the world's first Prompt-a-thon. And the Prompt-a-thon just essentially is a research goal of ours where we want your audience and people around the world to tell us, like, how far can you push this AI? How wacky, how creative can you be to optimize any website in the world? So you can check that out at promptathon.ai. I'll just bring up the Chameleon UI here. So what we're looking at, Matt, is the dashboard. I'm going to launch a new experiment. Here you can see, the classic options like, would you like to build this test with a visual editor or graphic editor or with a code editor? And now we have a new option. And that's really important for the audience to hear is like, there is a new way to build tests. So I'm going to click by prompt. And I'm going to give the tests a name, and I'm just putting it on a dummy site, but we're going to drop this into the Lego homepage, just because that's Matt's cool idea.
Fun fact about Colin, everyone who's listening, is Colin actually once was literally a manufacturer of cocktail cherries that were quite good, and then sadly the cherry industry margins didn't make sense anymore with the cost of cherries, but that's a pop-up cherries. That's a fun insider track for you that not many people will know.
I still have a couple small batches laying around, and I still have the dream, Matt. We just got to get those organic cherry farms back after COVID. That was a brutal one, but here we are now. For those listening, I've just launched the Chameleon on Lego. By the way, Chameleon is not installed on Lego. Again, for anyone listening, just download Chameleon's free PBX. You can launch it on any site, just like I'm doing now. So, here
I'll walk through. So we just came to Lego. I was doing some initial like, okay, let's try to find some ideas of what might be a good one. Something that I noticed just from we talk about it in like kind of levers at conversion. We have this whole framework that you can check out called the conversion levers framework. It's ways to look at different levers to drive the behaviors we want across websites. And those can be things that are promoting someone to take an action or maybe inhibiting them to take an action. And so one of the levers that we actually do see a lot of movement on, no surprise, is like usability levers. And so very, very simple. And I almost think this is like, I almost chose it to be a little bit like tongue in cheek with a classic like button color test is one thing that I saw, what I noticed, Colin, if you just go too far there, is you can actually see in those orange things, they've got add to cart as one option. But then you have to take the kind of focus very, very quickly. They also have like back order, and back order does start to exist like across the site. And so one of the things I was thinking was like, okay, that seems like potentially a little bit confusing or something you could easily miss. Maybe let's make that a little bit more clear in terms of there's a different functionality that you're signing up for here, and then possibly take it one step further and be like, what's the value of doing a back order? Like, why do I want to do something like that?
I got you. So button color test it is. It's a fair point. I mean, I had no idea back order versus add to bag, but again, the key thing I want everyone to really take away is that no one should be able to tell you that your idea is bad. You can have different ideas. Like people don't do the button color test because they don't know or they don't think it has an impact on the bottom line or on some key KPI. Well, the only way we know if it does or doesn't is if we test it, right? But to test it requires bringing in a developer, going through QA, blah, blah, blah. Now, if we can make it go from like a day's worth of work down to a minute, then I think we're all now more keen to do optimizations that are super simple. So again, it's about putting experimentation back into like the front lines, letting them be able to solve customer problems in a faster way. So let's just do it. I think you're saying change all CTAs that say back order to blue. I chose blue, okay, instead of orange. All right. Matt, why don't we also say like add some text near CTA that explains why they should back order. Like we don't just have to change the button color. We could also like, give some context. So that's it. Normally you'd have to do this with a visual editor or sorry, you'd click on the element and you'd have to check to make sure that it was going to work on your SPA. Well, in the new way of working, the AI is going to read the structure of the page, all the DOM mutations, all the single page application troubles that have, plagued a lot of the WYSIWYGs and the graphic editors in the past. The AI is much better at that. So this is not going to be like seconds. If you go try these AI tools, it takes like a minute or two to build something new on the existing sites or to create like a new website. Now, here you go, Matt. This is your prompt. So, like I said, change all the CTAs. Let's say back order to blue instead of orange. There you go. It's not only changed the button color, but it's also added this text here for us to see. Reserve yours today. Ships as soon as it's back in stock. Okay. What I like to show here, though, for everyone watching, is that again, take a look at the summary. You get to see, we wanted to make sure that everybody could see how the AI thought. And then I also want to make sure that everybody sees that we're providing all of the code. And that's critical because you've gone now from like, not having the ability to do the variant to not having the code, of course. And now you have the variant and you have all the code as well as the summary of what was done. So really trying to be transparent about like, the process. So
Well,
here,
just to add there, yeah, I was gonna say maybe if you show like the before after real quick on this because
so
this
here
is
you
our
go.
original. Yeah,
There's the original. All the buttons are orange. There's no mention of what is back order. And now in what, like a minute or so, you have a new blue button that's working and it has all of this language reserve yours today. So here you can compare that. And then
and I would just say like the thing with that jumps out to me right away is like okay, like I've gotten actually pretty far pretty quickly, right? Like in is being able to apply this, but then I'm like, oh, that's not gives me some anxiety. Like I don't really like that. Like the different size button color, the back order doesn't quite fit. Probably would be better for the text to maybe below the button rather than side by side here.
and you
Now
just keep extending your prompt. So
just clarify that. I can either extend the prompt or like what you're saying is I can now just take the code that's generated, right? And now I can get a little bit more specific in terms of like this is the
exactly.
whole I think you said human in the loop before. I think that's where like I can now go from I've got something it's not yet quite like say 100%, but I can now like manipulate this and kind of like refine it either through more prompts or I can really just dive in here and take control as like the person building the test, right?
Absolutely. You've got something to fine tune. And what we're seeing is people are copying this code and they may have their own AI code generator and they'll pop that code into their own AI, clean it up. Or in most cases, people are quite good at just saying like, hey, increase the padding on the CTA button to this. But again, if you don't want to even look at the code, you would just keep prompting, saying like, you know what, that looks good, but I want reduce the copy by 50%. Can say make the CTA button large enough so that the back order verbiage is clean. This is a really simple thing to do. You're working in like minutes. And what's also really important for everybody to hear is this is going to work on your dynamic website. So it's not going to break. So here, where you can see it's all adapted for the mobile view now that we're looking, tablet view, as well as desktop. And then, when you're ready, if you think, okay, this does look good, I'm ready to ship it, okay, then you would just configure, launch your test.
Yeah. Okay. And then that's when you would then finalize, launch the test, etc. Okay. Very, very cool. Just for the sake of time, I'm sure we could actually go very, very deep in this. I know you guys have lots of content. Even I've seen some of the prompt-a-thon stuff that you're putting together to jump a little bit to the end, which is very cool. Would highly encourage like people to maybe start checking out like how far you can really push this. Maybe just from the people who are like in this every day. I'd love to just be like, let's maybe talk today's state of like what are limitations of this? Like what are limitations of PBX on like, hey, this is just things to be aware of, like initial gotchas or anything like that like would be good to know for folks. Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I think again, it's really like how comfortable are people? I mean, we see things like as much as some of us are deeply immersed into AI, some folks are just beginning their journey into like how to chat with AI. And so what's I'm always interested to see is some people are frustrated that you if you hit enter, it loads the prompt, versus hit shift enter. So I mean, we have to really deal with like these different maturities of how people understand chatting with AI models. And again, I say chat because a lot of us are used to like say a chat GPT where you do want to chat with it. But in PBX, this is a utility. This is something that you come to the table and you should know how to successfully like prompt. So I think that's something anybody that's interested in like understanding prompt-based experimentation is really start to understand like what are some common best practices when it comes, or the do's and don'ts of like prompting. We've got a whole article about what we've learned after 1,000 PBX tests. And that we've even created like a GPT that we can share with everyone about how to like build a prompt. But it's kind of, interesting that you're back to like garbage in, garbage out when it comes to your prompt. The other thing I would say is sometimes you over-index on how granular you want to be with your prompt. Some of the most amazing variants that we've seen, particularly in the Prompt-a-thon, is just been wide open prompts. Like, what should I do on this page? And the advice it's giving is very inspirational. So I think that's something to keep in mind is that you need to find that sweet balance between like understanding how to prompt well, but at the same time letting this intelligence surface ideas that you probably didn't even think of.
I love the idea too about like kind of also being like not too specific, like actually being a little exploratory with it. I think it is very cool. Just on that note, so I know you're talking 1,000 prompts that have been run or built experiments with. I know this has been also like in market somewhat with Kameleoon's customers for a little bit. Some have started like adopting it.
Yeah.
Maybe just okay, this is very cool. Someone wants to be like, I'd love to start playing with that, even start like leveraging it, can see like this could really be like an advance. What does adoption look like? Like, can you give some like how to go about doing this?
Yeah, yeah. So I think again, to circle back, like we had the power, the promise, the original promise of web experimentation that anybody could use CRO or conversion rate optimization or experimentation to be data driven, to improve customer experiences. That promise was not fulfilled for a decade. It took engineers in order to like help really make impactful tests. But today with PBX and the power of AI, that promise is being fulfilled. It sounds too good to be true, which is why we had to make PBX free. So anyone listening, I really encourage you, try it, see it to believe it. The process is very simple for anyone that gets started. You create a free account. We have a Chrome extension. It's free again. You use that Chrome extension because it basically transforms your browser into a canvas. It allows you to see the variant being created on any website, not just your website with the snippet installed. So the barrier to like getting started is quite low. Once you're in, then I think again you need to start looking at it like a portfolio of bets. So have your small tests, like you and I just did a quick button color one. Have your small easies, have your mediums, have your larges, but take it one step further and say, you know what, I'm going to have a portfolio of experiments that is already part of my roadmap, already part of my product, my testing ideation list, and but throw in three, four, five ideas that the AI created for you. So really try to like free your mind to let new ideas, new variants come to the forefront because that's where we're really seeing these surprising gains. Imagine most of the listeners know, gosh, it normally takes me X number of hours, X number of days, X number of weeks. That Black Friday test that you and I just did, changing the back order, there's a code freeze on, no one's going to be able to do anything. You can't get engineering support to save your life. Well, I encourage everybody to reimagine if you could launch any variant today, what would your world look like?
Yeah, and I would say maybe just add something totally outside of the chameleon sphere that has jumped out to me, and I think especially the like humans having some control, getting in the loop. I think like the first step of this too also is there is going to be all these tensions where like probably just prompting all your tests has challenges. Like they have to be brand compliant. They have to make sure that they're like legal compliant. There's all these kind of issues you'll kind of run into. But I think the idea of like you can use this to get started, like get a little bit faster and then do like a little bit of the fine tuning and make sure you solve for some of those things. Like that just jumps out to me as like such a really, really powerful like kind of thing that like almost anyone can be jumping into, but also maybe having the expectation. I think Kyle and our team talks about it, like thinking about an 80-20 rule that like maybe don't expect it to go all the way to like 100 necessarily. Maybe not today. Maybe again, the second inning analogy, like maybe it will get there. But at least having that mindset and not being frustrated by that, I think can go like a really, really long way. And to put you on the spot, I think you've said this to me, the idea of like the mindset shift between like correction versus creation, I think is how you framed it. Maybe I don't want to put that in your mouth, but like kind of being an interesting one for people to start thinking about.
Absolutely. I mean, like, again, you had, you know what you had yesterday, which was a lack of engineering support. It took you days, hours, weeks. Now, today, it's going to take you minutes. But to your point, like, I think it's just so much better to have a variant that is 80% there, in some cases 100% there, than having nothing at all. We just saw the Core Hotel Group. They're behind like Sofitel, Fairmonts, all of these big hotel chains. They found that it reduced their time to build by 89%. Like that is insane. Think of the savings and how fast you can go when you're saving up to like 90% of time building a variant. So again, yeah, to your point, I think anybody should look at this as what happens if I could build that variant today? Am I expecting perfection? Maybe. Go ahead, try it. I know that you're going to get a variant that you can correct quite easily that will likely save you like 50, 90% of time.
Nice. Okay. And then just make it really tangible. Back to the prompt-a-thon. If someone wants to try it, what is this again? Maybe just to remind everyone, like what's possible.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that we circle back to this point is that this is brand new. No one has done this before. So there's a lot of AI out there that will help you build what's called a prototype. All right. Now, if you're building something net new and it doesn't have any traffic, there's no users going to it. You want to show your friend or show a focus group. You can be pretty radical. It doesn't even have to work, right? But if you're going to like use vibe coding or AI to build on your existing site, it has to work. The experience has to be one that you're ready to put in front of your actual customers. Now, that means there's a tension point. Like the AI that Kameleoon has to deliver needs to be at a higher threshold for that expected experience. We don't know where that line is. We don't know how far you can push this AI. And that's really the genesis of the Prompt-a-thon. I just saw somebody optimize CNN's website with I had never even thought about this, but like build an accessibility widget so that with a click of a button, you can turn the CNN's homepage into like something that allows people that suffer from focus to be able to like zero in on different fonts, article types, you name it. I just did one yesterday where on a Subaru website, someone was building their own AI agent on top of the page as like how to choose the best car for them. So again, the sky is the limit. We don't know where that limit is, so we created the Prompt-a-thon. Again, anybody can join. It's called promptathon.ai. And we have a prize pool up to $100,000 for the universe to show us what can you do with this technology on any site that exists today. We want to see it. So that's the hallmark of the Prompt-a-thon.
All right. And time limit, how long is it running for?
Goes until the end of January. Or I think it goes January 17th, and we're planning to announce like the finalists in February.
Cool. Love it. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time. Very, very cool. And I'm sure we'll have lots more cool stuff coming out around PBX. So thank you very much, Colin.
Thanks, Matt. Nice to see you.